We're sitting here with David Chase, creator of The Sopranos, writer, entrepreneur, philanthropist.
Genius.
Kevin Dornan.
Entrepreneur.
I was talking to David just before on the break, and I was telling him about Manson and Bush, and we played this before, but just for your own edification, David, this is Charlie Manson and George Bush.
I've learned to reflect. I just reflect back.
Well, I strongly disagree with that, of course.
I know I don't know. I know I'm stupid.
I strongly reject that.
I admit I'm a petty whatever. I've never been a success at anything.
This administration hasn't been straight with the American people.
There you go.
Pretty amazing.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, I have a theory that people with certain psychological disorders also get the same speech impediment because we played, now play McCain and Bush. They all sound alike. If you have it. If you don't, nicht gedacht. Never mind.
We'll come back to it later.
We can come back to it. So, David, are you recovering from the reaction to the end of your series?
Just barely. Yeah.
Barely. Will you? I know we talked a little bit about this, but for those of you who don't know, there was a show called The Sopranos on HBO, and it had a very controversial ending, which everyone's aware of. And I spoke to David soon thereafter. And he was rightfully astounded by not just vitriol, but just the amount of press that it got, the amount of
I was really astounded. What surprised me was how I knew there'd be something about it.
Right.
Obviously, it was a popular show and people were talking about it, but I didn't know it would go on for so long. 3 weeks later, people would still be, blogging and.
Did anyone ever stop you in the street or at a function when they realized it was you and
no one's ever stopped me, but people said to me, I think I've only been told people like the ending. I don't believe everyone that said that. But they've only said, oh, that was brilliant, fantastic. And I know some of them thought it sucked.
Yeah, well, I mean,
some of the ones that I'm talking to. I know thought it sucked.
Right. Let me, what were, when the actors saw the ending, what was there, because that script was kept under wraps, obviously, no one knew what was going to go on. Did the actors have any say when they saw it? Or when they read it, some of them I know personally said they saw it for the first time when they saw it.
Right,
but they didn't know the ending.
No, they didn't know the ending.
And
I think Jim knew the ending, but
he's the only one, right?
But I think he'd forgotten it. I don't think he was, because it was a lot. We talked about it two or 3 years before that.
Oh, you said this
I'm not
is the way,
sure that he
so
remembered the actual. I don't know that he remembered every little detail about it.
So is it fair to ask some questions now of you about the series?
Sure. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Now, when you were creating it.
The series or the ending?
The series. Mm-hmm. There was a point within the series where you said, obviously, this has got to end sometime, but you weren't sure when. Did you have it in your mind 2 or 3 seasons before that it would end pretty much the way it did?
Yes, I did.
That he would not be whacked and that it would be just left?
I just had just what you saw. The diner, the guy comes in.
Oh, you had
family,
that?
The
really?
whole thing, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I must say that I've obviously seen the scene more than once and studied it a little bit. There's so many brilliant touches in the scene, and my feeling was that the tension that was created in that scene was sometimes things go beyond what they are. This was like a cultural phenomenon, and more people watched that episode than any that year, and everybody was ready for it. Even people that only watched it the first year, and then this thing happens, and when what's the daughter's name? Sorry,
Meta.
When Meta was parking the car. That was one of the most.
That's what people really hated, was that parking the car.
But really?
Yeah.
I thought it was one of the greatest, most tension-filled, mundane scenes ever. Her trying to park was all filled with portentousness. I mean, I'm sure you intended that, right?
I did. I mean, I find parallel parking tense. I do, to begin with. So I've gotten worse at it as time has gone by, and it makes me. I don't like to do it, and I thought that would add to some of the tension. Yeah.
And what's interesting to me is, and I was working with Steve Sharippa recently. We were judging Last Comic Standing for NBC, and we were talking about a lot of different things, obviously. And he was saying that he heard all these theories about the show that had nothing to do with what your intention was or what any of the actors thought, like little hints along the way, like a word, like when Tony and Steve were on the boat at the lake. And they said something like, you never know what's going to happen. You never know when it's going to hit you. Put somebody, everyone.
That was part of the ending.
Oh, it was. You see, what do I know? And are there other things that were in previous episodes that were a hint towards it? Now that
it was that, and there was a shooting at which Silvio was a witness. Well, he wasn't a witness. He was eating dinner with a couple of hookers and some other guy who got hit, and there was some visual stuff that went on there, which sort of amplified Tony's remark to Bacala about you don't know what's happened until you won't know what happened when it hits you. Yeah, that was about it.
That's what John Kennedy said.